Welcome to another edition of News Bites here on Daily World Television. My name is Kal Korff and I'm your host. According to experts who follow the popular demographics of the spread or retractions or contractions of religion, the religion of Islam now is set to overtake Christianity as far as the number of followers or believers around the world. This is despite the fact that by Roman Catholic standards, their Pope is considered to be liberal. Some of the changes that the current Pope has made is he has no longer told Catholics that they should automatically condemn homosexuals. They should instead forgive them, as if it's their issue to forgive people. There's no magical powers in forgiving people. There's no super divine elements to that. You can either forgive or not. The main thing is you shouldn't judge people to begin with. That is very much in Christian doctrine. So what happens now when Islam becomes the dominant religion? Does this mean that most of the world is going to support terrorism? Absolutely not. Thankfully, about 95% of all Muslims do practice Islam peacefully. However, there are just enough of them, millions unfortunately. Now that's a small subset compared to the fact that there's over 1 billion Muslims. They do support very conservative or radical strains or elements of Islam, just like you can find even in Judaism, some conservative extreme orthodoxies that don't allow men and women to mix. They're stuck in time. In Islam, at least the radical forms of Islam that are epitomized by hate-based groups such as Al-Qaeda, Hamas, Hezbollah, and of course the Islamic State, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, you find that their charter is to eliminate anybody who doesn't believe in their particular twisted form of Islam. And within that overall doctrine, there are two elements of it. There are Islamist elements and Islamo-fascist elements. And let me explain the difference between the two, because the media often mixes these terms as if they mean the same thing and they don't. An Islamist element or movement is not only religious, but it's political in its agenda. Islamist groups and Islamist terrorist groups seek regional conquest. Probably the best example of this in today's world is the Taliban in Afghanistan. They want to control Afghanistan and that region. They're not interested in what goes on in Alaska. They don't care about what goes on in New Jersey. They care about what goes on in Afghanistan, and that's why they've been fighting this insurgency. Now, an Islamo-fascist group, by comparison, believes in this all-powerful caliphate, a single dictator or religious figure who seeks global conquest. You will remember that a couple of years ago, the Islamic State released its 5-year plan, as they call it, to recapture all the territory that Muslims once held. This covered an area from Portugal all the way down to the southern tip of India. Same with Al-Qaeda, although they're not monolithic quite like they want to be, because there's more than one Al-Qaeda. They believe in a strong leader too that comes down from his mountain and tells his operatives what to do, and then they do it. Such a figure was Osama bin Laden until he was killed. Their current leader, Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, has replaced bin Laden. So the media likes to call these Islamist groups. They're not. An Islamist group again focuses on regional issues only. An Islamo-fascist group wants world conquest, and they have a single leader that tends to lead from the top down, just like a fascist dictator would. Examples of Islamo-fascist groups are Al-Qaeda and, of course, the Islamic State. So, when you have these elements mixed up in Islam, as Islam does become the dominant religion on the planet, thanks to demographics and the continued stupidity, one can argue, of the Christian movement, who keeps doing all the things wrong to cause Christianity to implode versus other religions, there is also another factor that is explaining this, and it's called population dynamics. It is a fact that the birth rate in the Arab world and in countries that are not as prosperous economically is higher than in the wealthier nations. The overall population of Europe, for example, has shown a huge trend towards being on the decline. If you want to break it down by race, the white race is shrinking in population, while the non-white race continues to grow. But let's be honest, the non-white race is dominant. White people, as they're called, have never been the majority of people in the world. In fact, if you believe in the biblical story of Adam and Eve, they were not white. Jesus was not blonde hair with blue eyes. That was just nonsense. So what is happening is, as populations decline in Europe, and as they start to decline in wealthier countries, say in Latin America, versus say the Middle East, where the countries are more poor because they're deliberately mismanaged and they're not genuine dictatorships or democracies that are prosperous, you will see that this combination is driving Islam, as in the growth of it. Again, population dynamics and birth rate, the fact that the Christian religion, as led by the Catholics, continues to do everything wrong to make it less appealing to most people. And then, of course, you have the fact that one type of religion, like Islam, is more aggressive than, say, Christianity. And within that, you have a very violent sect of it, about 5% of it, which is divided between Islamist and Islamofascist sects, with the Islamist part of it dominating. These are people who want regional power. And of course, it's spreading in other countries to offset Christianity in continents like Africa. So within the next couple of years, Islam will be the #1 religion in the world. And if people who follow Islam do not do a better job of purging and cleansing itself from its radical elements, the one thing we can all count on is that the number of terrorist incidents and groups based on radical Islam